Get out of your seat right now. You are causing a disturbance, and I am ordering you off this plane.
The flight attendant told her, "You can't stay here." But 5 minutes later, the plane couldn't take off. Why? The flight attendant said, "Get out." But when she found out who this mother was, she lost her job. What was the shocking truth? Today, we're going to tell you a chilling story that happened on a flight from London to New York. Her name is Eleanor, a 32-year-old mother wearing a headscarf with her 2-year-old son Oliver in her arms. But this journey was much more than just a regular flight for her. If you're ready, let's dive into this tense story. But be careful, if you don't watch until the end, you'll never learn the truth.
Lydia gently touched Eleanor's arm, but Eleanor pulled away. "Please, my son is sleeping. Why are you making me move from here?" Eleanor said. Lydia shouted angrily, "This is not your seat! Get up, understand?" Some passengers watched in shock, while others turned their heads away. Eleanor's eyes began to well up with tears, but she tried to stay quiet for her son's sake. Lydia got on the radio to call someone. "Captain, we have a problem at 12B. Send security immediately." Security Officer Thomas arrived with quick steps. He gave Eleanor a stern look and put his hand on her shoulder. "Ma'am, please leave your seat. Otherwise, we will have to remove you by force." Eleanor replied with a trembling voice, "But why? My ticket is for here. My son is sick. Please understand." Oliver woke up and started crying. Although some passengers looked uncomfortable, no one spoke up. An elderly woman named Margaret turned her head to look out the window. Lydia spoke with a mocking smile. "See, even the baby doesn't want you here. Come on, get up." A look of helplessness appeared on Eleanor's face. She tried to take her phone out of her bag, but Thomas tightened his grip. "Drop the phone. If you don't get up immediately, I'll handcuff you." The passengers' whispers grew louder. A young man named Jacob started to rise from his seat, but the woman next to him pulled him back. Tears streamed from Eleanor's eyes, but she tried to resist for her son's sake. Lydia and Thomas moved to lift Eleanor from her seat. Lydia accidentally touched Eleanor's headscarf, which made Eleanor even angrier. "Don't touch me! This is discrimination. I will file a complaint," Eleanor shouted, angry but controlled. Lydia laughed lightly. "A complaint? Who's going to take you seriously? Come on, to the back." As Thomas grabbed Eleanor's arm and tried to lift her, silence fell over the plane. Just then, the cockpit door opened and co-pilot Richard appeared. "What's going on here? Lydia, why is there so much noise?" Richard asked in a serious tone. "This woman won't leave her seat, Captain. I called security," Lydia said. Richard turned to Eleanor. "Ma'am, may I see your ticket?" Eleanor handed over her ticket with trembling hands. As Richard checked the ticket, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Lydia and Thomas exchanged glances. Richard spoke thoughtfully. This is a first-class ticket. Why is she being asked to move?" Lydia's face turned red, and Thomas took a step back. The passenger's attention was completely focused on the scene. As Eleanor tried to calm her son, Richard picked up the radio to call someone. Richard's voice trembled as he spoke on the radio. The tension on the plane increased. "To Control Center, emergency. We have an issue with a passenger in 12B. Ticket is confirmed, but..." Meanwhile, Eleanor took a business card from her purse and handed it to Richard. The card read, "Eleanor Hayes, Skywings Consultant." Richard's eyes widened in shock. You're a consultant for Skywings? But that's impossible." Eleanor answered calmly but firmly. "Yes, and this plane belongs to my company's fleet. Now please explain this situation." Lydia's face turned pale. Thomas looked at the floor and mumbled. The passengers whispered in shock. Eleanor held her son and sat back down in her seat. As Richard held Eleanor's business card, a voice was heard from the radio. All eyes on the plane were fixed on Eleanor. Lydia, sweating, took a step back. Richard spoke on the radio. "Control. The Skywings consultant is here. Report the situation to headquarters immediately. Authorization for Lydia and Thomas to intervene is revoked." Lydia spoke in a panic. "But Captain, this must be a mistake. I didn't know who she was. I was just following procedure." Eleanor responded calmly but authoritatively. "Procedure? Was telling me to get out part of the procedure, Lydia? You insulted my son and me." Oliver fell asleep, murmuring in his mother's lap. Passenger Jacob could no longer remain silent and stood up. "This is too much. This woman humiliated a mother. We're all witnesses." A murmur rose among the passengers. The elderly woman Margaret turned her head toward Eleanor and nodded slightly, as if apologizing. As Richard returned to the cockpit, the plane's intercom activated. The voice belonged to Skywing CEO Victor Langston. Victor, over intercom. "Dear passengers, this is Skywing CEO Victor Langston. I'm here to resolve a misunderstanding that occurred on the plane. Please remain calm. The situation is under control." Eleanor smiled faintly upon hearing the announcement. Lydia's hands began to tremble. Thomas retreated to a corner in his security uniform. Lydia whispered to Thomas, "This can't be real. She was just a passenger." Thomas replied fearfully, "You saw the card. She's a consultant for Skywings. We're finished." Victor came out of the cockpit and approached Eleanor. He was a middle-aged, serious-looking man. He bowed his head respectfully to Eleanor. "Miss Eleanor, I apologize. I will investigate this scandal immediately. What would you like me to do about Lydia and Thomas?" Eleanor replied, "They discriminated against me on this plane. My son and I didn't deserve this treatment. I leave the decision to you, but justice must be served." Victor turned to Lydia and gave her a stern look. Lydia's face turned pale with fear.
The plane landed in New York. As passengers disembarked, Lydia and Thomas were escorted off the plane by security. Eleanor walked toward the terminal holding Oliver. Victor accompanied her. "Eleanor, this incident has damaged the company's image. Lydia has been fired and Thomas has been disciplined. Your past, why didn't you tell us about it?" Eleanor responded with a slight smile. "I'm a mother, Victor. My son's safety is more important than anything. But yes, I was once one of the founding partners of Skywings. This is how I learned about its discrimination." As a young woman, Eleanor is involved in the founding of Skywings. However, she faces difficulties within the company because of her headscarf and eventually leaves. Years later, she returns as a consultant. Eleanor didn't take revenge on this plane quietly. She brought about justice. But this story also revealed how difficult the path can be for a Muslim mother in the West. Eleanor held Oliver and got into a taxi at the terminal. In the background, the Skywings logo appeared and the screen faded to black. Lydia lost her job, but Eleanor's struggle isn't over. So what would you have done? Subscribe. The story awaits you.